Okay. Right, it's 10 o'clock then. Welcome to the Scrutiny Performance Panel, Development and Regeneration. If we can start with on the agenda by any apologies for absence.
We have received apologies today from Martin Nichols.
Okay, thanks. And I can see a lot of people on the screen. If we can do a roll call as well, please.
Thank you. I'll start with the panel members, please. Councillor Jeff Jones.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Peter Black.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
Yes, thank you.
Lost it.
Councillor Philip Downing.
Yeah, present.
Councillor Wendy Fitzgerald.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Steve Gallagher.
Yes, sir.
Councillor David Helliwell.
Yes, present.
Councillor Terry Hennigan.
Present.
Councillor Chris Holly.
Present.
Councillor Paxton Hood-Williams.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Linda James.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Mary Jones.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Peter Jones.
Present, yes.
Councillor Susan Jones.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Will Thomas.
Present.
Councillor Mike White.
Yes, present.
And the invited Cabinet members and officers, Councillor Rob Stewart. Councillor Robert Francis Davis.
Present.
Phil Holmes. Hugh Mowbray.
Present.
And Ben Smith. Is there anyone here that I've not called out? Okay. And if I could just move to item 2, confirmation of the convener. Councillor Jeff Jones has said that he's happy to continue in this role for this year. Could I just ask the panel to confirm that they're also happy with that?
I move Councillor Jeff Jones.
And I propose Councillor Jones.
Yes, fine.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll hand you back to the chair.
Okay, many thanks. Many thanks for that. Can I ask everybody to switch their microphone off? Let's speak, please. I can hear a bit of background noise. Okay, right, back to Emily and everybody. Any disclosures of personal and prejudicial interests? No. Okay. And if I can remind everybody as well about the prohibition of whip votes and declaration of party whips. Okay. Right. Actually moving on to the minutes of the meeting on the 14th of September. Are there any points that anybody actually wants to raise on page 1, 2, 3, and 4? Yep. Everybody agree for accuracy? I want to raise something actually on them.
Yes.
I know I did ask Councillor Rob Stewart about not replying to our previous letter, which was back in February, and he did confirm, and to date I don't think we've had a reply, and that's not included in the minutes. And also at the end of the minutes, we've actually got some actions. And if I go through them one by one, one was images of arena, Northside Residential Co, and MSCP to be circulated to panel. To my knowledge, that's not been done. The second point is panel visit to arena site to be arranged once possible dates provided and safe to do so. I know Emily has actually progressed this, but due to coronavirus, I think they said 15 people, Emily?
As it stands at the moment, we're waiting to hear, probably not by the end of this year, but we'll wait to hear when that's possible in the circumstances at the time.
Okay.
Chair, do you mind if I add to that?
Yeah.
Because of the current issues, we are undertaking drone footage inside and outside of the arena to share with people. So once that is ready and available, we can share that with you. And I thought I had circulated or provided some images to be circulated. I can provide new images after this meeting anyway, in due course, just to circulate those as well.
Okay. Some of these points might come up in the dashboard anyway, and again, you know, information on government departments interested in locating hubs in Swansea, a number of jobs that are to be transferred to Swansea to be provided to the panel. I know there was a sensitive issue with regards to speaking to the unions, perhaps in these locations. I know I'm not quite sure of the update, but you know, is there any reason why that information hasn't been shared with us?
Well, it is a confidential issue, and there are lots of ongoing discussions at the moment. So in terms of formalising all these issues, we're not quite there yet. So I think we couldn't disclose any of that in an open session. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, I think it would be better.
Chair, presumably, Chair, we could have a closed session where we can see this information.
Yes. Well, that's part of a proposed session, a closed session that I'll bring up a little bit further on anyway, you know. On detail on number of jobs to be created at distillery to be circulated to panel. I don't think that's been done yet.
I have provided that as well, and it's the number is 15.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. On the last bit, one of the actions we actually had as well, and perhaps Peter can give us a brief resume. If we can keep it brief, Peter, please. You know, Councillor Peter Jones to have direct discussion with member of Property Development Manager's team regarding Swansea Vale.
Yes, I can do that now, Chair, if you wish. I've had a discussion with Adrian Denning. I think it's the Physical Regeneration Manager, I think that's his title. And also with Deb Hill from the Nature Conservation team. This is concerning the Swansea Vale development, of which I really wanted more information when we looked at the issue at the last meeting. And obviously I was concerned about the potential environmental impact of what kind of development might take place there. And I'm told that the most likely form of development, perhaps not surprisingly, will be housing. But of course, this is a wetland site. And in fact, Deb Hill described it to me as probably the best wetland site, certainly within the county and city of Swansea area, and therefore a matter for some legitimate concern. But Deb seemed to be satisfied about possible mitigation measures that could be taken, provided appropriate space can be found on the existing Swansea Vale site. I understand from Adrian that the draft ecology report to which the paper refers has been received, but it is a draft report at the moment. I'm not quite sure what that means. Deb has also seen the report. It's some 60 odd pages or so, and I'm hoping to be able to see that myself at some point. But it does seem that the likely mitigation steps that would need to be taken to enable some kind of physical development on the site will be adequate in terms of, certainly in terms of Deb Hill's interest in the matter. And what was one interesting thing that she mentioned that I wasn't aware of, and I've just mentioned now, and that is the possibility of an ecology park on the site. Now, I don't know how developed that is. Deb seemed to believe that there's some kind of work that's already been done on that. I don't know, Hugh, whether you're in a position to inform us on that, but this certainly interested me. I'm not quite sure what an ecology park would look like and how that would apply on the site, but this certainly sounds like an interesting development. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks for that, Peter. Right, moving on. Any public questions submitted?
No
Emily?
public questions today, no.
Okay. Right, we move on to the project update report. It's slightly, well, it's quite a large report. I can see Hugh's actually been very busy. On a slight difference I can see at the start of the report with regards to the symbol guidelines, if I can call them that. I don't really intend to go through a lot of the report, only to perhaps start it and invite questions really from the panel. With regard to these symbols, who actually thought of this? You know, what? Why is this being brought forward?
It's been put together by my team in essence, and it's just supposed to give a snapshot really of each of the projects and where we are in terms of timescales. So there's an easy reckoner for that really. That's the purpose.
Okay, thanks for that. Right, as I said, I'm not going to go through it all. You know, I think there are certain points that the panel actually want to raise, but if we can perhaps start on the first page, you know, Swansea Central Phase 1. Do you want to take us quickly through that?
Do you want me to share the report?
Has everybody got the report in front of them?
No.
No, right, okay.
It's
yes,
easier to see on the screen.
Yes, I think it would be better. I've got a hard copy here, but yes.
Can people see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you go full screen here?
I can. Oh gosh. Is that better?
Well, I can certainly see that, but to go on to the first page and see how we can read the next page.
That's better.
That's better, yeah.
Right. Okay. That's the first page with the symbols, or the this just gives people a clear indication of each project and the key timescales or the high level timescales. So if you want to move on to the Swansea Central.
Yes, please.
Swansea Central, this is basically still moving forward. There are some delays due to COVID, but construction continues. As we've heard, there were some COVID cases on site, and a number of people are currently isolating, but the work streams have been sort of split, and the teams come in different shift patterns really to make sure that sort of construction continues. And it's the same with the office and design team elements as well. So they've been split into two in case there are any issues, to make sure there's a continuity plan to move things forward. So that's been sort of well dealt with. The arena, basically the roof is complete, and now whilst it says the cladding has commenced, that's now actually complete. So the arena itself is now a watertight box to move forward. Wellington Street Works, those are going forward, and there's no issues on that. The Church Hall element has now got a planning consent, so that will commence construction later on this month. And the pavilion in the park, the conditions have been discharged, so that now has a planning consent and is moving forward into the detailed design. The pause point, which is the area where No Poetry artwork was, is basically that is moving forward. We're waiting for furniture, digital furniture, and sort of with charging points, etc., to arrive, so that can be installed together with some viewing goggles, which are basically got screens on them to allow you to look at the potential of what's happening in the arena and the history of the area. So that's something which is being looked at and moving forward quite quickly now. Hotel, we're still working with Cairns, the hotel developer, and we're in discussions with Welsh Government about funding the hotel to move forward. The residential block, again, that's sort of continued and is now virtually complete in terms of its height. So fitting out will start. And whilst it's saying engrossment circular with Pobble, that has now been completed as an agreement. So that's another step forward. We're looking at a heritage panel on the digital square area adjacent to the residence and the marina to actually screen some of that area, which has been done in consultation with the residents. So that's another point which is being worked up, and there are artists being appointed to work on that project. Management and maintenance, there's still an ongoing issue with that in terms of sort of planning for the future, making sure that everything is properly maintained, etc. Obviously, COVID is having an impact on some of those issues and potential income streams, but that is being worked through as we speak. So that's Swansea Central. If anybody's got any questions.
Yeah, we've got Chris Hawley, first of all.
Thank you very much, Chair Hugh. It says on the risks about hotel funding requirement increase due to COVID. Is that to make it more open or what?
No. That's just a factor of COVID. At the moment, the private funding market, the bank funding market, will not fund hotels because of the COVID position. So that's why we're having the discussions with Visit Wales and with the Welsh Government to find solutions to moving that forward.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Peter Jones.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a query with reference to the Wellington Street works, and in particular tree planting. We know, of course, that this was a cause of some concern and difficulty with the Swansea Tree Forum a few months ago. And I'm just wondering, in terms of the tree planting, have they been consulted about this? And is there anything that we can be told about the number of trees and the species of trees that are due to be replanted there? Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'll have to come back to you on the species and the number, if I'm honest. I think there will be more trees than there were there before, but I will come back with a detailed position on that in due course. And there has been a lot of consultation with all bodies in terms of the works and trees.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions there?
Yes, can I ask a question?
Sorry. Yes, go on.
Under your risks, ATG venues are closed around the world. Is that going to have an impact on their impact in Swansea development? I know businesses are struggling at the minute, and
yes, it's time for ATG. They have had to make quite a number of people redundant with the offer of the jobs to come back once the theatres reopen, etc. But what they've done is they've managed to protect the core business from the COVID aspects. They've had some equity investment from their investors as well. So at this point in time, the core ATG business is sound. There are no alarm bells ringing for that. And basically, they're moving forward with everything Swansea. So we've got I've got no concerns about ATG and Swansea at this point in time.
thank you.
Sorry, Rob, I missed your hand there. Do you want to comment, please,
No.
Rob Stewart?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Chair. Just two clarifications, really. In reference to Councillor Jones's question around consultation of the Tree Forum. Yes, they are consulted. They've most recently been consulted in terms of works at the bottom end of Wine Street. And of course, Councillor Jones will know that was part of the dispute last time around the level of consultation and the regularity of consultation with the Tree Forum. I have to say, that we are not engaging with the Tree Forum on any other basis other than formal consultation because of the way in which the Tree Forum behaved towards officers of this authority. They made some scandalous statements against officers which were untrue, and I think it's wholly appropriate that we limit our interaction with the Tree Forum until such time as that organisation does come back to a sensible way of operation. We will continue to consult them as we would all other consultees, but there will be no direct authority with the Tree Forum as an organisation, and that is because of their behaviours. On the other point I was going to raise, it was just around the funding of this area. I noted in the press, Councillor Black made some comments recently in a letter to Wales Online around the funding. I just remind members that, of course, we've established the capital equalisation reserve in order to cover the repayments for at least the next 5 to 6 years. And members will be aware, because they will have seen the revenues report from Ben Smith, which will due to come to council on Thursday, that we've been able to increase the level of reserves, earmarked reserves in the authority, to assist further with the repayments on the arena. So it won't be the £7 million a year as a direct hit on the taxpayers as discussed. It won't, because that money's already there. So
it will be, because once the capitalisation reserve has been used up, that money will then have to be repaid. So at the end of that period, you will have to pay £7 million a year.
Peter, yeah, can you let the leader speak, and then you can speak afterwards?
Thank you, Chair. I really appreciate that, because Councillor Black may have his opinion, but I'll speak to the facts, and you know, the facts.
Peter, please.
Well, if he's going to slander me, I'm going to reply.
You can reply. Yeah, if you finished, leader, or.
Chair, I feel like Joe Biden in a Donald Trump debate.
It must be Donald Trump then.
Yes, okay.
I think we've worked that one out, Councillor Black. Right. But anyway,
point of order.
Let's keep it.
Chair. If people are going to come here and just be speaking, there's a hand up and should not interrupt until called upon by the chair. And Peter Black should know better the years that he's been in politics.
Okay, I think we need to, step back a minute now. Okay, if the leader is finished.
Can I raise a point of order, Chair, please? That Robert Francis Davies should let you chair this meeting and not himself.
Please. Yeah, all right.
Chair, okay, if I may just finish the point calmly. The point I was making is there is a capital equalisation reserve that will cover payments for a foreseeable future, certainly at least the next term of council. And of course, we have been very clear. Sorry, Chair, I think the signal cut out there.
Right. Okay, Peter, if you want to comment.
Yeah, I think the point I was making, Chair, and I understand the capitalisation reserve is there to cover the costs for an initial period, and that's not disputed. You have, in fact, just taken £10 million out of that capitalisation reserve, which I know you'll want to put back in. But my point is that once that capitalisation reserve has been exhausted, you will then have to make repayments. And my understanding is that currently those repayments will come to about £7 million a year. So the point I made in my letter is not inaccurate. It is, in fact, a fact that some stage, presumably during the next council, you will have to make repayments of £7 million a year.
Okay, right.
Chair, sorry, my signal dropped out. I didn't complete my point. I understand what Councillor Black is saying, but it is not accurate. And as I've restated, and I will continue to make this point, the repayments over the entirety of the next term of council are covered. And as we have done this year, we would intend to continue to replenish the capital equalisation reserve. So in order to restrict the amount of impact that there would be on future council tax rises, I think it's pretty reckless to suggest 8% council tax rises to the public in an article of the Evening Post which have no basis in fact.
I'm sorry, Chair, but it has got a basis in fact. You've borrowed huge amounts of money that will have to be repaid. If you're replenishing the capital reserve, that has to come out of revenue, which we have here. And at some stage, you will have to make repayments, which I understand the amounts to £7 million a year. I mean, there may be a dispute on that, but my understanding is that is correct.
Okay, well, I think, we've got 2 points of view here. We've got a council meeting tomorrow, which discussing the reserves. Perhaps it's something that can be brought up tomorrow. Right, I can't see any more hands. I've got a question though. We actually mentioned about COVID. I know that some of the people actually working on site have actually caught it. And I think Hugh actually said that they're actually isolating. With regards to, I can see the resolution with regards to locally employed people actually on site. And I want to ask how many locally employed people are and how many external contractors. But with regards to the external contractors, where do they actually go to isolate? Is there a provision in the contract or whatever? Are they isolating locally, or do they have to go back to England or Scotland or whatever?
My understanding is they would be sent home to isolate for the 14 days, is my understanding.
Yeah. How many external contractors are there on site?
I haven't got the numbers to hand. I'd have to come back to you with that, but it depends on which elements of works are progressing in terms of the various works packages, and I can come back to you with a figure on that for a point in time, but I can't answer that now, I'm afraid.
Yes, if I can have local and, shall we say, external contractors, it would be beneficial. Yeah. With regards to ATG,
Chair, may I come in on that just to be helpful? Because I think it would be really helpful, as Mr. Mowbray has said, to be specific about what you're asking there, because as Mr. Mowbray has alluded to, if you were to asking about the early days of the construction, obviously the steelwork required more contractors from outside of the region. But if you're talking about a specific period on site now, then it'll depend what works are being carried out, because obviously we've got many packages of works, and depending on what works are live, it will determine who's on site. So if you're looking for a date range, I think you probably best be specific about what day you're asking for, because you'll only get a snapshot, because the works are progressing at a quick pace, as you will see. Yes. But it'll therefore vary in terms of what numbers are on site per day. So we want to give you an accurate answer, but I think if you can be a bit more specific in the question when you ask it, I'm sure Mr. Mowbray can then give you the facts.
Yes, I think it would be beneficial to give a snapshot really of a period in time, perhaps at the start of the contract and at the present time, two variations. Right, with regards to ATG, I know all businesses are actually suffering because of COVID, and I think Hugh Mowbray actually said that they're actually laying people off. With regards to the people they're laying off, I've looked at some information actually on Companies House with regards to the company. It seems quite small with regards to employees, just over 100. What sort of people are they actually laying off? Are they laying off their, shall we say, part of the main core of employees, or the, if I can call them, subcontracted employees that actually work perhaps in the different arenas? We have that information from ATG?
Yeah, well, I can. Yes, the majority of the people are the subcontracted people who work the events on the theatre side of things. They have laid off some of their core team in terms of the 100 that you mentioned, but they've kept on, and most of those are on furlough as opposed to laid off, to be honest, in terms of the core team. But they have kept on the operational people, and they have got specific consultants to deal with all the Swansea issues, which they've delegated that to as well. So there is a process in place, and there is the relevant staff in place to progress the arena in terms of the designs and the potential operations moving forward as well. And we are aware that they have been in the market looking for a potential manager for the arena, for the Swansea Arena project.
Okay, thanks for that. Terry Hennigan.
It's just make sure I'm on.
Pardon?
Yeah. When you're talking about the amount of people employed locally and outside contractors, could you add apprenticeships that's been going on down here at the same time, please?
Yes, we can look at that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on Swansea Central, or should we move on? Sorry,
Sorry, I
just-
had my microphone then. I did ask the same thing. So,
Oh, sorry. Okay,
that's
because I can't.
I didn't see
can't
my
see-
microphone was off.
When it's in this mode, I can't see the screen, so I can't see hands or people.
I know I'm finding it difficult myself, you know, with all the people here. Are there any more questions on this page? Okay. Right. The next page we've actually got is Swansea Central North. Do you want to actually comment at all actually on that?
I don't think there's much to say at the moment. There are ongoing discussions in terms of potential occupiers and in terms of the tenants and the potential for looking at that. I suppose the only point to make on that is that we'll come on to shaping Swansea, but there is the potential for that to be delivered through that process as well, rather than the council. But that's not a decision that's been made yet. It's just to explore that.
Right, I can see no hands there. Can I just ask a question with regard to the potential tenants? Is COVID having any effect with regards to the number of tenants actually showing interest?
To be honest with you, obviously COVID is an issue and people are looking at sort of their operations, but it's not having a great impact on sort of the tenants that we're discussing with at the moment. Some people are looking at sort of what their future working requirements are, but there is still a significant requirement for office space still being demonstrated.
Okay. Right, no more questions. We move on to the next page, please.
And
Kingsway, sorry, Peter Black.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was going Kingsway. I thought we were on the next page.
All right.
Sorry.
Was there anybody else that actually wanted a question?
yeah, I did.
Sorry, I can't see any names. I'm trying to see all the things here. I can't see a hand up against you. Right, Chris?
Yeah, basically going on to the which we were on we were on Swansea Central North. Possible that we can have some sort of schematic showing where this is in relation to the other developments, because just that people are aware of what Swansea Central North is about, because I think it would help no end with people's discussion.
I think that's a very good point. Hugh, do you want to perhaps give us a quick overview? You know,
I can, or would you like me to prepare some images for the next meeting? Because I think it's a lot easier to see it with sort of plans in reality. But Swansea Central North is basically the continuation of it's the second phase really to the first phase. As you're probably aware, the first phase does go onto the area north of the arena site, and there's a multi-storey car park and residential and ramp being built there. And next to that ramp and around that ramp, there are a number of development sites which lead then towards the Iceland area and then sort of linked into the city centre. So it is sort of it's a big area, and there are a number of potential development zones there, and a number of uses as well to look at. So maybe it's better if that's okay if we can bring a short presentation to the next meeting.
Can I say, Chair, that I think that's probably the best idea, because I think there is confusion over whether this is part of the Kingsway or whatever. So just to if we can have those images, I think that will make a lot of people a lot easier to distinguish what developments are going on.
Yeah, I fully agree. Right, Leader.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was just going to support that. I mean, just for members to be aware, we are having some images worked up at the moment, and they're not quite ready yet, which is one of the reasons why Mr. Mowbray is not able to share them today. But it is something we're keen to do. But I can reassure Councillor Holly, phase 2 of Swansea Central doesn't link necessarily to the Kingsway in any real sense. They are separate developments. Obviously, the Kingsway is, as we'll come on to, proceeding independently. But you will understand that, given the answers Mr. Mowbray has given, we do intend to make some announcements on phase 2 in terms of the public sector hub as soon as we have that opportunity with our partners in both Welsh and UK government.
Okay, thanks. Peter, I can see your hand is still up, but I assume we're actually. What are we? Do you want to
On
speak?
Kingsway,
or-
on the Kingsway slide, yeah.
Like 71 to 72, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
On the Kingsway.
You talking about the infrastructure slide now? Which one are you talking
Yeah,
about?
the Kingsway infrastructure, the one that's
Right.
currently on the screen, which
Right.
I put my hand up when we moved to it.
Right.
I was in Kingsway yesterday, and I noted that you've got circular plaques installed in the pavement, indicating that the pavement on the wider pavement anyway is a joint cycleway and pedestrian walkway. And I was wondering why, when you laid that pavement, you didn't take the opportunity to follow good design practice set out by the Welsh Government following the Active Travel Act, and actually make sure that the pedestrians and the cyclists are properly segregated on that pavement, because inevitably, if you're having a joint pedestrian and cycleway, there is going to be conflict on that pavement. And I think it's, you could have taken the opportunity to properly segregate the two areas.
I think, as far as I'm aware, we've followed all good practice in that respect. In response to that question, I think I'd have to consult with my highway colleagues just to give you a detailed response.
Okay, well, can I refer to Chapter 6 of the Active Travel Design Guide, which is produced by the Welsh Government in 2014, which clearly says that where you can, you should try to segregate cyclists and pedestrians on those sort of pavements. At the moment, you're going to have a conflict there, which could cause problems. We have those problems on the foreshore at the moment, where you actually have proper segregation. But if you're not going to have segregation on that pavement, you are going to have problems there.
I'll come back to you with an answer.
Thank you.
Leader.
Yeah, just to come back on Councillor Black's question, my understanding, and I'm sure Mr. Hughes and others can advise via Mr. Mowbray, but I know there was extensive consultation with both cycle groups, disability groups, and others, and the scheme that was designed was I think, a good balance between the requirements of those who may have disabilities or visual impairments and those who were cyclists. And obviously, there were other considerations as well at the time in terms of retention of trees and the need to make sure that we had open spaces that could be used for events and ensure that the Kingsway becomes a vibrant space again. So whilst the Councillor Black is right, there is specific guidance in terms of active travel. That isn't the only consideration for the creation of the Kingsway. And of course, let's remember, it's far, far better than what we inherited, which was a complete and utter disaster.
Well, which you started, of course. Can I just ask then, what consultation took place with pedestrians?
What, in 2003?
What can I ask? What consultation took place with pedestrians?
Hang on a minute. We don't want to shout in.
Well, I'm asking a question.
Okay, right.
Which is what consultation took place with pedestrians? Because clearly you haven't followed best practice.
I'm sorry, Councillor Black, you're entirely wrong on that, and I would.
No, I'm not wrong on that. I've got the document in front of me.
Councillor Black, you're saying that no consultation took place with pedestrians. That is wrong.
I didn't say that at all.
And anyway,
I did not say that. I asked what consultation took place.
Yeah,
Councillor Black, I know we're coming up to an election, but please, this isn't supposed to be a political meeting.
I'm not standing in any election, Rob, are you?
I am. Yes.
Okay, let's move on. Hugh Mowbray is.
Chair, can I have an answer to my question,
Peter, please.
Well, can I have an answer to my question? What consultation
I'm trying to give you that
place
answer.
Pedestrians?
I'm trying to give you that answer, Councillor Black. Mr. Mowbray, if I could just finish my point, and then I'll let you come in.
Yeah, fine.
Just to again answer Councillor Black, I know, and I've said there was full consultation. I've said that Mr. Hughes will provide the detail through Mr. Mowbray. But what I was challenging was what you seem to refer to, which was what consultation, if any, had taken with pedestrians. That did take place. There was general consultation on a number of occasions. And as I was trying to point out to you, I think what we've arrived with is a very good scheme, which strikes the right balance between all of the competing demands for that space. And again, it's not just our opinion. I think it's the general opinion of the people of Swansea, which is it's a vast improvement over what was there.
Well, Chair, can I just come back on this? I did not at any stage say you did not consult with pedestrians. I asked a specific question, but my point is it does not follow best practice design guidance, and that is the point I'm making. Irrespective of the consultation, I'm not following best practice.
Just to add to that, I think there's been significant consultation and dropping sessions, etc., on all the designs before anything was started on site. So I think, and it has been sort of expressed that sort of the consultation process for the Kingsway is an exemplar which lots of other projects should follow. So I think there has been significant consultation, and I will take away the point on the cycle aspects, and we'll come back with a detailed answer on that as well.
I just have a concern, Chair, that you know, exemplary consultation and you still don't get best practice doesn't seem to me to marry together.
I've got nothing else to say on the Kingsway at the moment.
No.
This slide, unless there's
Yeah, hang on a minute. Wendy Fitzgerald, do you want to come in? Wendy?
Yes, thank you. Yes, it was just a query, actually. I don't often travel through the Kingsway, but I did last week or the week before, whenever. And I was travelling from the St Helens Road through the Kingsway, and I did notice that a bus stop, at least I think I noticed that a bus stop had been closed. Are there any, changes being made to the sighting of bus stops along the Kingsway?
Not that I'm aware. Sorry. Not that I'm aware of. There are works being undertaken to rectify elements of defects which were being looked at. That's all that I could think of which that could be, to be honest with you.
It was just curious because the bus stop was in a situation where if the bus stopped, it was stopping and effectively blocking the road. So I wondered if in fact a decision had been taken to relocate the bus stop in order that the road wasn't blocked when a bus pulled up.
No, I don't think that's the case. I think the bus stops will remain, but I think the works to remedy any defects are trying to be undertaken now whilst the traffic is at a minimum in terms of the street. So that I suggest would probably be the reason.
Okay.
Yeah. If you put your hand on, Wendy, Leader, do you want to say anything? Your hand is still up.
Apologies, Chair, it's a legacy hand.
Right. Okay. Will Thomas.
Thanks, Chair. Just a quick one. I'm not sure. Hopefully, this is the right time to bring it up. At one of the previous meetings, we spoke about the office block and the link from Salubrious Passage. One of my concerns was the footfall through Salubrious Passage dramatically decreasing if we had that link through. The leader said that they were looking into a sort of link into Salubrious Passage halfway, and I was just wondering how that was progressing.
Sorry, do you mean the Picton Yard area rather than Salubrious Passage?
Sorry, yes, I do. Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's a different place altogether. So yeah, well done.
Well, the works are being completed to create the link between Kingsway and the Lower Oxford Street area. It's not open at the moment because there is obviously a lot of construction work to come forward in that area. But that will sort of it'll put back a link, to be honest with you, which is a historic link which wasn't there, which hasn't been there for some years. So that will come into place in due course. So and I think in terms of the architectural sort of approach to the Kingsway office block, etc., that encourages sort of the flow of people along the Kingsway and through those new links in due course. So I think the anticipation is those new links will work quite well in and also activate the yard, which will be between the Kingsway office 7172 and the Hacer green development, which again will be hopefully starting on site next year.
Just to confirm, Hugh, sorry. When you showed us a plan of it before, you showed us the yard. There was a link from the middle of Picton Arcade into the rear of the office block, sort of yard around the rear of that. I'm just wondering, is that what we're talking about here? Is that going to actually progress?
The one which has been progressed to date is the north-south link between Kingsway and Oxford Street. You're quite right. There is a aspiration to have the link from the east-west link as well, to help create sort of a better flow through the yard area, and the delivery of that is currently being explored. It hasn't. Sorry.
Could we have a more detailed update on that at the next meeting? Only because I'd be, if I was one of the traders in Picton Arcade there, I'd be considerably worried about that extra link considerably affecting footfall, and anything we can do to increase footfall in there and share it around, I think would be beneficial for all the traders.
We can share, I can share some plans, but I think the anticipation it would increase footfall into the arcade in reality, but as I said, we haven't got any concrete funding to deliver that at this point in time.
Understood. Thank you.
Right. Okay, Wendy, I can see your hand is up. Is it left up from before, or? And what are we talking about? Are we talking about the Kingsway infrastructure?
It might be a legacy hand, Chair.
Yeah, sorry, I seem to have got a bit of a problem with my hand at the moment. Sorry about that.
Okay. Well, Peter Black, are we talking about the infrastructure?
No, I put my hand up again. Can I just ask a straightforward question? Are we still intending to call this new development Picton Yard? No,
that is being reviewed currently by the Culture Department.
Okay, and the only risk, if I can actually say something, really is the impact on budget again, with regards to COVID-19. I assume extending the work, but you're actually saying that the bond that's actually there will cover all costs anyway.
We don't know that definitely yet, but that is the hope, and that is the direction of travel at the moment. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Right. If we can go on to the next slide, 7172, then please.
Yeah, 7172 the Kingsway. The construction tender for this was issued and has been received. That is currently being analysed by the team to recommend a construction partner to move forward, and that includes the Barclays building as well. So that is that is being work which is being undertaken as we speak, and we are looking to basically report to Cabinet on this towards the end of the year, to look at the construction contract and the tenant side of things as well, which is an ongoing discussion at the moment. HASA, the contracting also included a method statement from the contractor to see how we can work with HASA to ensure both projects can continue. So that is being analysed, and once we've had that, there was positive responses from the bidders. So once we've got the best solution, then we will discuss that with HASA. There are new hoarding graphics which are supposed to be up by the end of October. However, the weather was so bad last week they couldn't be put up, and those graphics will be erected by the end of this week. So there'll be new sort of images on the hoardings of 7172 the Kingsway. The commercial discussions, that is progressing. There are a number of discussions which are ongoing on that, which is very positive actually in terms of responses. So that is an ongoing aspect which will feed into the Cabinet report, and that's all I was going to intend saying on that one.
Okay, Chris Ollie.
Thank you very much. Can I take you to the risk section of this report, of this particular issue? It's still too early to predict how fully COVID-19 will impact. I think everybody has got the same opinion here. From what I can gather, something like 80% of the commercial businesses, including insurance companies and banks, have still got a real problem with the way in which people going back to work, whether or not the office space and facilities for office workers within cities is going to be reacted. Also the problem with some of the transport companies. I don't necessarily think we've got those problems, but I think we have got quite a substantial problem when it comes to, you know, office space and the facilities within the city for commercial activity. And also, it says the cost of letting are not within acceptable parameters. This could impact on delivery. Obviously, this is to do with, you know, whatever company we pick, what the percentage of lettings are likely to be to warrant the expenditure on the construction and the development. So what sort of, I understand this is an open meeting, so perhaps the details of that might be confidential, financially confidential, so they would have to be discussed later. But I think it is incredibly important that we as members understand what the acceptable level of lettings is before we do this development, because it could end up as being nothing more than an empty office space. So if we could supply it that in a confidential basis, I can understand, but it would be appreciated.
Oh, okay. If I go backwards, then the last question, I think when we're not quite ready to be in a position to report that yet, but once we are, happy to have that discussion. And secondly, there's quite a lot of positivity from, because this is based on tech businesses as well, who like to be together, and flexible workspace, and the discussions we're having with potential operators is that they're currently seeing people returning to the offices, and they are very keen to look at taking this as a building moving forward. And another key factor for this building, and we have had a number of COVID workshops before the planning application was submitted, which looks at the building in terms of its operation. There are 2 stair cores in the building, so you can have one up and one down. The materials are sort of aluminium and other things like that, which are antiviral in that respect. You've got outside space. It is naturally ventilated. You can open the windows. So in terms of COVID and protecting the building from the future, it's as good as it gets. And we are still having demand. COVID is affecting things, as you say, Chris. I don't think there's any doubt about that, but it's the demand is there. And once we're in a position to report the detail of that and the costs, we'll bring it back to this group as well.
Thank you, Hugh, because yeah, you are, you know, I'm not saying that we're not going to fill the building. I'm not going to say whatever the, you know, the tech companies are going to come back or come into Swansea to do it. But I think it is that question of what percentage are we prepared to accept moving forward to do the development. Thank you anyway.
Okay. Any other questions on that one?
Sorry, Hugh, Will Thomas, Chair. Can I just ask one question related to the Kingsway? It's not related to this specific site, but the zone residential grants for above sort of shops, I think it was mainly the Kingsway you're looking at. I was just wondering how successful they were turning the sort of above the shops into residential units with the grant offers.
Well, those grants are across the city and outside the city, actually, in other areas, and they've been exceptionally successful. The take up is well over sort of the grants we got available. So we got a backlog of potential projects which want to come forward for this. So I think it's been really successful, and we're hoping to get additional money from Welsh Government to continue that programme, and obviously it'll go into the next version of the TRI programme as well. So I think it's been very positive for Swansea and has been very successful. And if you are interested, there is a presentation which we could bring, which shows some of the before and after, and how successful this as a project has been for Swansea in turning sort of poor buildings into new fit-for-purpose buildings for the future in that respect, which is I would suggest it is a very positive position in terms of that grant with availability.
Yeah, that's great. How many units out of interest have we created? You know, self-contained units have we created via this grant mechanism to date? Do you know?
I don't know the total number off the top of my head. I'll have to come back to you on that, but we can do that easily. Okay,
great. Yeah, very interesting. Well done. Thanks.
Phil Downing.
Yeah, I was going to ask if this committee could have sight of the method statement simply because of the positioning of this development within the city centre. But when I'm looking at the contractors mobilised 4th of January, you haven't got much time between now and the 4th of January to get to have a good look at the method statement, because what we don't want then is, once this has started, people jumping in and saying, well, we should have done this and we should have done that.
Good point.
Well, all the method statements are being analysed at the moment for the tender process, and until we've selected a partner in that respect in terms of what is the best method statements and the best sort of price, then I can't really comment any more than that, but we can obviously bring some more detail on that to you in due course.
Chair,
Okay.
Chair, I've had my hand up for a little while. Is there
Yeah, I'm just going to invite you in, Leader. Yeah.
Thanks very much. Just to add and trying to reassure Scrutiny Committee, as I said at a previous meeting, I understand what Councillor Holly is saying in terms of the normal way in which you would run a commercial development would be to build the building dependent on a certain level of occupancy and a certain level of tenancy sign up. We've got to remember that the City Deal projects are not entirely like that. These are public sector led developments on the basis that we do catalytic investments to then spur further development. Now, you can see an example of that with the arena and the developments around it, which have then spurred and encouraged other private development around them. So I just wanted to reflect on the fact that we won't be taking the approach whereby we'll be looking at, say, 80% occupancy before we press the button to build the building. That is not the approach we're taking. As Mr. Mowbray has said, we've already run a procurement. There are a number of significant tenants which have responded in terms of appetite for space there. And again, I'd refer people back to the previous strategy that we've adopted and shared a number of times now as part of the city region, which is we have a lot of evidence which shows that even before COVID, people were leaving the city centre to take up office space elsewhere in the region or outside the region because they couldn't get the right level of accommodation at the right price within the city centre, and that continues to be the case. I mean, we've had a recent example, obviously, of one of the travel firms moving out of the city centre up to the enterprise zone, and of course, what we want to do is to ensure that there is sufficient quality office space accommodation in the city centre, because getting more people working in the city centre will help with footfall, will help then generate the trade that the other retail businesses need to make a successful city centre.
Right, Chris Ollie.
Yeah. Can I come back on what the leaders just said? I'm separately saying it would be the public led to try and generate the occupancy levels, but if you go back to the original concept of what this was, we did then say that we would be looking at a occupancy level to make it maybe not self-sufficient, but to give it a good start in life. Otherwise, if you've got 40% occupancy, that does leave a lot of space and people get a bit disheartened. So I understand what you're saying, but I think realistically we've got to start thinking 50%, that type of level, but we wait and see what Hugh comes back with some of his estimates what we were talking about earlier on.
Yeah, and Councillor Holly, just to reassure you, again, I'm not being evasive on this question, but as Mr. Mowbray said, we're in the process of evaluating the bids that have come in from potential tenants. And again, until that evaluation is complete, we won't be able to say something more publicly. But what I can tell you is that we continue to be encouraged and continue to be pretty confident that there is pretty good demand for the space in this building.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Will, you still got your hand up, and the leader. Right.
Sorry, legacy hand.
Yeah. Right, if we move on to, I wasn't going to go through every slide, but we seem to be doing okay for time. Onto the Wine Street.
Again, works are progressing. There have been some one tree removal. 2 we agreed to remain. the leader has said, in terms there has been consultation with the tree groups on that. So that has been resolved. The works at either end of Wine Street.
I think we've lost you.
Sorry, my.
Oh.
We seem to have lost you, Hugh.
Hugh.
I don't know if you can hear. Oh, there we are. I can see Paxton. I don't know if you can hear us, Hugh. Perhaps you want to log off and log on.
Seems to be frozen.
Yeah. Okay, waiting for him to actually come back on. Are there any questions before he actually goes through it? Anything that actually jumps out at anybody here with regards to Wine Street?
Can I just ask, what's P lighting? I may be stupid, but I don't know what that is.
White lights.
Oh, it's white. It's just white lights.
Yeah.
They're the very small lights in the trees that you see around Christmas time.
All right. Thank you.
They got them in the uplands, haven't they? On trees in the uplands, or used to have anyway.
Oh, they're lovely. They're pretty. Yeah, lovely. Thank you.
Yeah. Robert, you're actually involved in this, I assume, with regards to Wine Street. Do you want to say anything?
Sorry.
I can see Hugh is now back.
Yeah, apologies. I've had to reboot my computer. It's gone.
Yeah.
Something happened. I'm not sure what, but let me reshare the screen if I can. Apologies. I was saying that there have been tree works undertaken. One tree, it was agreed that we'd retain 2 of the 3 that we were proposing to take down. One has been felled, and that there were discussions with the tree groups on that. The tender is out for the works at the either end of the street in terms of securing those elements as a first part of the works moving forward. And we're looking at installing sort of new P lighting to the area in sort of October, November, and there are various meetings and again the same consultation process as we undertook on the Kingsway is being undertaken. There have been meetings with the businesses, and there will be dropping sessions undertaken as the design emerges in that respect. So again, that's all I was going to say on that one at the moment.
Right, Wendy. Wendy Fitzgerald.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I don't know if I missed something here, but can you explain why the trees are having to be felled in Wine Street? I mean, are they diseased or problematic, or are they just an inconvenience?
I think the condition of some of them isn't great, but I think they're in the wrong place and too close to the buildings, which is causing some issues. And then in terms of how the street is going to operate moving forward, so it's a mixture of those things really in terms of operational and condition of the trees. But we did agree and managed to sort of make sure that we can retain 2 of the 3 which were going to be felled. So only one of them has now been felled, which was in a very difficult position to take any works forward and impacting on the buildings there as well.
Okay, thank you. It just seems that, we do take down mature trees. You only have to look at what has happened with the student building by the station. I counted the trees before they were taken down. There were 25 mature trees. We've lost them.
I think that our policies and the greening looks to ensure that we would replace any trees lost in terms of numbers overall across the city centre, and we are trying to maintain as many trees as possible, and that just shows in terms of we did look originally at felling the 3 in Wine Street, but we've only taken 1 down and leave the other 2 there to make sure that we sort of try and maintain as many mature trees as possible.
Mm. Yeah, I have to disagree with you there, because quite frankly, I think we've lost mature trees, and let's face it, it's great planting new trees, but the effectiveness of new trees in dealing with pollution is limited until they become mature trees.
Okay, thanks for that. Leader, do you want to say anything?
Can I come in?
Well, you can. Yeah, I did ask the leader. I thought he was first, but Robert.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. My mic wouldn't turn off there. Yeah, I was just going to say, just to add some clarification, we have had a detailed evaluation of the trees that have been removed, as Mr. Mowbray said. I'm sure we can share that evaluation, as Mr. Mowbray alluded to. Part of the reason for removing the trees, but some of it is also to do with the fact that it is causing damage to the public highway, and they're in a position which is causing difficulties for services. In addition to that, just to come back on Councillor Fitzgerald's point, that is incorrect. We are net positive with trees at the moment, and we are not replacing them with immature trees where they are semi-mature trees that we are planting. And the aim is always to plant more trees than we're removing. But of course, we must remember that we are in a city centre, and if we want it to be a functional city centre, we do sometimes have to remove trees, but that we only do so by exception, and where we do it, we replace with more than we removed.
Okay, thanks, Robert.
Yeah, I think that we got to look at the track record of us as a council on the tree planting. I think some people don't travel over the east side of Swansea or up the Swansea Valley, and if we pass up from Foxhall, past the into the enterprise zone, and along the road there, the bypass of the enterprise zone, we now have probably the largest urban forest in Britain that has been established. And everybody can remember that when all the metallurgical industries were in the Swansea Valley, nothing would grow in that valley. Now we have a green valley, and you look at the Fendrod Lake, the amount of people that use that for a walk. I think our track record, the amount of trees planted in Swansea, is probably second to none in Wales as a city. So when people say we're taking out trees, there's been a huge amount of tree planting in Swansea over the years that I've been on the council. And unfortunately, sometimes in the city centre, as the leader said, sometimes some have got to come out. But I think the balance of trees that we put in is absolutely far outweighs losses.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. And then Chris. Wendy. Perhaps she left her hand. Chris, do you want to come in?
Sorry, I'm having problems taking off my mute. Yeah, I don't dispute some of what Robert says. It's positive that we are planting so many trees, but unfortunately, I'll remind him, I represent Pentlegare, and our experience in Pentlegare has been anything but positive in terms of trees. I'll just remind you that we've lost 70 trees of ancient woodland, a particular iconic tree, plus then a mass of other trees. So, you know, planting trees may be positive. You may be increasing the numbers in east of Swansea, but certainly in the northwest of Swansea, my experience is in contrast to what's happening in the east, that we are losing trees, and certainly we're going to be losing more. There's ash dieback, there's a disease now affecting larch trees, so tree loss is going to accelerate, unfortunately.
Chris Ollie.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And I can reinforce of what Robert has said, because I can remember the state on Kilvey Hill and the Fenrod Lake, all that area, well and truly remember all that. So I'm not going to go into the tree planting, because there's the whole of the east side in that area had to be done, because it was the largest industrial wasteland in Europe at that time, you know, and it's been a huge success, the Lower Swansea Valley. What I wanted to ask about is under the Wine Street risks. Again, we've got a lot down there about COVID-19, and obviously with Wine Street being the centre of hospitality, the evening economy in Swansea, we need, obviously, there is going to be some sort of need to think about our response to what the First Minister is likely to say with hospitality reopening after November the 9th. What I would ask the leader and actually the whole of the cabinet to consider is how we can put pressure on the Welsh Government to make sure that we have a clear and concise plan for the hospitality and the evening and the night economy in Swansea, given that the list of risks which are on that in that particular portion of the report. Thank you.
Have we lost Jeff?
I don't know what's happened there.
All is silent.
I know.
We've lost Jeff.
Chair's on mute.
I think he's on mute.
Sorry, I was on mute. Terry Hennigan. Terry. Right, we move on to the leader then. Leader.
Thank you, Chair. No, just to again reassure Councillor Holly, yes, it's something obviously I've not just raised for Swansea but for Wales in terms of the level of support for the economy. There are a number of schemes live at the moment. Not only are business grants being paid as of yesterday to businesses across Swansea to help them through the firebreak period, and money will start hitting accounts before the end of the week. But also the latest phase of the ERF fund is live, and obviously Business Wales are administering that. Specific support has been discussed for the hospitality industry, and you'll know as well from the council's perspective, we've provided grants in excess of £1 million to businesses to expand into open space on the public highway where it's safe to do so, and to purchase equipment so that they have additional outside space that they can use when restrictions are in place, which I think if you look at the way Cardiff approached some of the ways to support businesses by creating an outside area outside the castle, which has then had to be removed, I think our approach of providing support direct to businesses to expand their individual areas, I think is a more sustainable and better option. And I think businesses have been very, very receptive to that. But in terms of the wider plan for Wine Street, clearly there's an opportunity here now to invest, to redo the space outside, to make it a more family-friendly area as well as an enjoyable social area, and to make sure that we get the right environment for people to enjoy safely in Swansea during COVID and beyond.
Okay, thanks for that. I want to move on actually from here, but quickly, Chris, do you want to actually comment?
Yeah, I agree with what the leader's saying.
Right. Okay.
Originally, done Wine Street, it was supposed to be the cafe quarter, but it's turned to what it is. But I do agree that we should look at expanding on the outside of the Kingsway, on Wine Street, and I look forward to what plans come forward on that. Okay, Robert, quickly now.
Well, our nighttime economy in Wine Street has been very successful over the years. But we don't want to just keep it as a nighttime economy. It's got to be a daytime economy. And that's when the phase 2 or the city centre north area with more offices. There'll be more dwell time, people taking lunch. And I think the Caffrey Quarter that Councillor Holly referred to, I think will become firmly established in the daytime. But there's no good investing all of Swansea and not investing in Wine Street to maintain what we have. It's not just about attracting new businesses, but it's retaining the current businesses. We consulted extensively over the years with the people in Wine Street, and they are really looking forward to this investment, and I'm sure it will be extremely successful. COVID-19, it is a risk, but it's a risk everywhere throughout the world, and so therefore every slide you see, you will see that popping up, the risk of COVID-19. We can't ignore it, it's there. But when we do come out of it, at least we're coming out of it in a city that's expanding and ready for business.
Okay, thanks. Leader, you got your hand up, but I assume it's just been left up. Right, if we moved on to city centre market and strategic sites, I don't know if anybody's actually got any questions actually on that. If I can perhaps actually say something here, I think it, the risks are elemental really. Planning policy and travel plan are not acceptable to potential bidders. I think one of the problems we've had in Swansea is that we're out on a limb as such, with regards to getting to Swansea and so on. So, I see the city centre marketing as strategic sites extremely important to attract people. Robert, do you want to speak, or did you leave your hand up?
Sorry, I left my hand up.
You left your hand up. Right?
I'm sure Hugh will come in here.
Yeah, Paxton, do you want to? And then Hugh can come in here.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of simple questions, really. A couple of points up from the bottom. You've got initial bids for shortlisting received. How many actual bids did we actually get at the end of the day? And also, you're saying at the bottom of that to be analysed for shortlisting, and decisions look to be made within a couple of days' time. How soon will we know the results or the outcomes of those decisions, so that we can have a look at them and see what we think?
Firstly, I think it's worth saying that there's been a huge response to this process in terms of the marketing process we undertook through the Estates Gazette and the launch. That saw over 2,000 views across the world, frankly, in terms of the launch of the Shaping Swansea initiative. I can't disclose the number of bids at the moment for procurement purposes, but we've had a substantial number of bids, and they are of a very, very high quality, which has proved quite difficult, therefore, in terms of the analysis and the shortlisting process to get to a short list of parties. The documents that which were issued always said that we would shortlist up to 4 parties, and that is with the process which is ongoing as we speak in terms of the shortlisting has been signed off. So those parties will be notified. They've been notified today, actually, and then we move on to the next stage of the process. The thing that I will say is that I've never, in my time working in Swansea, I've never been in a position where we've had the quality we've actually had through this process, and I think this just demonstrates the work that's been going on in Swansea for the last 4 or 5 years, and where we've got to. The arena is another key aspect of this. Other towns and cities which are doing marketing haven't got sort of the sites like the arena actually sort of happening on site, which is seen as a real positive by the market, and therefore the market has definitively responded to Swansea as an opportunity, and building on all that's going on at the moment, the ability to catalyse future projects, and this will all help us drive the regeneration and the recovery story when that comes forward. So I think it's a very strong position. I can't give names because that's confidential through the process at the moment, but please be assured that the quality of the bids and the quality of the shortlist is exceptionally high.
Thank you for that, Hugh. Obviously, what you're saying is very encouraging. It's very hopeful. It's optimistic, and I hope that obviously materialises. But in that case, the one question I would be asking at that stage then, are we likely now to be seeing for the first time private money coming into Swansea for investment? Because that would be a big plus for us and it'll save us a lot of money in terms of borrowing at the end of the day, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, and I think that's the intention of this process, is to bring a private sector partner in to invest in these schemes. Obviously, COVID is having an effect, so we'll have to work with the partners once they're selected. But I think the intention, well, the clear intention is that the Shaping Swansea initiative does see significant private sector investment into Swansea.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Right, if we go on to the next slide, gives us a break of, this is the, have we got the right one now, city centre marketing.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, we're moving on to the, well, we've got that, and I wanted you to explain this really with regards to what exactly you mean by this slide. I can see Martin Nichols now appointed as the senior recording officer. I don't know what that is.
Senior reporting officer. The original documents had the chief executive of the council in that role, and that role has now moved to Martin Nichols.
Okay. So what does what does that entail for Martin at the end of the day? Is he part of the regional city deal then, or?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In terms of, I think the key issue is that the Swansea City Deal project, the digital waterfront project, Martin is the senior responsible officer for that project, reporting to the joint committee, basically.
Right. Okay. And I don't know if Ben Smith is actually here. Sorry, Ben. Are you still around, or?
Doesn't sound like it.
It doesn't sound like it. Okay. I was just going to ask a question really, it reminded me with Martin actually being there with regards to funding from the Welsh and West. I'm assuming we've had 80 million funding. Have we had any further funding since that time? I don't know if you can you can answer that.
Yeah, I think further funding has been received by the by Carmarthenshire as the administrators for the scheme, and there is a funding agreement between the various councils being sorted out to allow further money now to flow, which I understand is going to be completed shortly. Shortly,
right. Okay. Right, the next slide I've actually got now is starting with Tower, Riverside Strategy, Master Plan and Skyline and so on,
Yeah.
Yeah. Not going through that. Has anybody actually got any questions on this slide?
Yes.
Who's that?
Paxton, sorry, I put my hand up now. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Basically, Skyline, at this point in time, I was looking at the timescales there, and it looks like we're looking at least 5 years away from September 2021 before we're likely to see anything. I'm just wondering whether Skyline are beginning to go cold on this and whether it looks like that it's not going to happen. I don't know if anybody's got any comments on that or whether you're still optimistic that it will.
No, I think we're very positive at the moment. We've had, I've actually had a number of conference calls with Skyline in New Zealand over the last few weeks, and they obviously have COVID challenges. Having said that, New Zealand is now back and open, as I understand it. They are keen still on the project to progress it, and we've got an ongoing dialogue with Welsh Government on that project as well. So that is, I am very, very optimistic that that's going to proceed as a project.
Well, in that case, Hugh, I would suggest that if you can, if possible, look forward to the timelines there and try and bring them a bit further forward.
I think, to be honest, those timelines are probably a reaction from Skyline to COVID. New Zealand, as I said, has probably recovered better, certainly better than the UK, and is virtually back to normal. They are looking at their portfolio around the world in terms of projects which they're looking at. Swansea is one of those projects. There's an ongoing discussion, and I think there is a serious potential for bringing that forward.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Leader.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was just going to say the same. I've been in touch directly with representatives of Skyline. Clearly, New Zealand went into a much tougher lockdown than the UK did for a period of time. Skyline, obviously, like everybody else dealing with the virus, had to adjust to that. But as Mr. Mowbray has said, we remain extremely confident. I know there are ongoing discussions both with officers in the council and with Welsh Government around how this scheme can be delivered as soon as we're able to progress it post-COVID.
Yeah, so sorry if I can just jump in there. What do you call it? You know, with regards to the grant from Visit Wales, you know, £10 million. I'm assuming that's still under discussion at the present time.
Yes, ongoing discussions as recently as this week, so it is progressing.
Okay. Are there any other questions or anything else on that page? Right. If not, if we move on to the next one with Castle Square, please, headed.
Oh,
that's the right one. No.
I think Castle Square was on the previous one.
Yeah.
Is it? Oh, right.
Yeah.
Just
sorry, I don't think Castle Square page has been discussed yet. I think we were just taking out of order as it so happened then.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Which one have you actually got now? That's Castle Square you've got up on the screen.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, with regards, you know, we brought this up last time. We can see the, you know, the timescales, budget and resource and so on. I think the last time we assumed, I'm talking about the, you know, the panel, that the budget had been agreed for the whole project, but that's not the case.
That's not the case. An initial budget
is that you've got funding to look at them.
Yeah. The professional team which was appointed for this process was appointed to from start to finish in essence. So their contract is to undertake feasibility and then move on to the detailed delivery. We are at that stage in terms of the feasibility is coming to an end, and they are refining their schemes at the moment with a view to presenting us with the options for a detailed scheme to move forward. There have been delays. I'm not going to sort of hide. COVID has had an impact on not only sort of the private sector side, it's sort of the amount of work which is going on in the officer side as well to actually sort of deal with some of the project issues moving forward. So that is going to come forward very shortly, and we will be able to sort of bring images on that in due course. So it is moving forward. It is sort of a live project, and the Spider Management and Acme will shortly supply us with the detailed scheme designs.
Okay. Right. So with regards to the slides, the one you've got up, the edited Castle. Sorry,
if I may, I put a hand back up. Just to add to that one, just to give people a bit further context to what Mr. Mowbray said. Just to share that obviously what we're trying to do is to make sure that the designs and the plans for Wine Street link very nicely and seamlessly really with what we propose to do on Castle Square or Castle Gardens, and obviously making sure that is again linked nicely to Princess Way and then up to the Kingsway. So just to say, we've had a look at a couple of initial options for both Wine Street and for Castle Square, Castle Gardens, but we're not at the point where we were able to agree a scheme for that area. And of course, given that it's such an important area of the city, we need to get this scheme to be really, really a top-notch development or redevelopment of that area. So again, you wouldn't expect us to have committed the capital for that element yet, because we are not yet at the stage where we're happy with the designs and therefore we can't get to the point of price certainty. But our intention is absolutely clear, is that once we have that scheme in a position where we're happy to agree the design, then we'll obviously make a request for additional capital to be allocated to fund it.
Okay, Paxton.
Thank you, Chairman. I got shouted at the last meeting by the leader because I dared to suggest that the total cost of Castle Square and Wine Street development would be about 16 million. I only said that as a result of the figures we've been given in the appropriate PDC. Perhaps a leader would like to give me a more accurate figure now. Are we talking 10 million? Are we talking 5 million? Or what level are we talking about that we likely be spending there? Because we have to remember, Castle Square, this is re-greening exercise, and I think everybody is going to appreciate that. But you will remember that there was quite a nice green area in Castle Square, and there was a problem with the shelters, I must admit. But it was then decided by a Labour council to put in a glorified skateboard park, and now they want to put it back to a green area. Nobody's going to argue with that, but the cost incurred with all that is quite incredible as far as the residents of Swansea are concerned, and the price they have to pay for these decisions that have been made by Labour councils in the past. So over to you, Leader, and tell us exactly what the cost is likely to be now, or the estimate of the cost is likely to be.
Well, Chair, if I may, I never shout at anybody, and if I gave that impression to Councillor Paxton Williams, that was not my intention. I merely pointed out that certainly the 16 million was way wide of where we're thinking. The cost will be significantly less than that, but as I said in my earlier response, that is something we're working on at the moment to get the price certainty, but it'll be significantly less than that in terms of the costs going in. And yeah, I mean, no apology for the fact that Labour administrations have made decisions about the city. That's what winning elections and being in power is all about. And that's one of the reasons why the Conservatives have made very few decisions about the city.
Oh, I don't think we should get political. It's not a political meeting. So, Peter Jones, do you want to say something? We'll have to keep this pretty brief now, okay?
I've already spoken about Swansea Vale when we discussed that over the minutes, so I won't repeat what I said then. My question relates to a statement under the Velindre site, a slightly odd sentence, which is odd to me, that I'd like some clarification concerning the meaning of. Overarching brief being written to cover all ecological survey work, blah, blah, blah. Loss of habitat on development sites. This sounds to me as though this is some kind of overarching document that's being written that will intend to cover all ecological issues relating to all development sites. I just wonder if there's some clarification as to, is that the case, and will we get to see it? Thank you.
The Velindre, basically, there was a lot of work in terms of sort of laying out the site, which is now in place. And what we're looking at now is the areas around that, and trying to make sure that though the habitats and the areas around the designated development areas are now in place and are playing their role in terms of looking at how the ecology and how the sort of the biodiversity of those areas will work. So it's looking to build on what's there in terms of the development options, but also have areas around that which have sort of areas of ecological interest and importance in that respect. So it's not sort of it's looking to actually improve what's there and to make sure that the ecology areas around the development sites are fit for purpose, in essence.
Okay, so it purely relates to the Velindre site and the immediate environs of the Velindre site. It's not a more general document applicable across development sites over Swansea.
No, it's specifically on Velindre.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Robert, briefly, please.
I'm going back to Castle Square because Paxton said Labour did it, and yes, Labour did do it, but my memory serves me, it was a unanimous decision of council to do it. I know Paxton wasn't there at the time, but I suppose sometimes people look back with rose-tinted glasses and not looked at the problems that existed in Castle Square at the time. And when it was opened with the fountain and the glass leaf, and it won many national awards at the time. But, you know, it's time to move on. people do want to see it greener, and that is what we are responding to. And that, as the leader said, the work is going to be done in Wine Street. It's a natural link into Castle Square. You can't develop the Maritime Quarter with link into the city centre without incorporating a natural flow line from High Street and Castle Street right through Castle Square. And I think when we do get all the final plans through, I'm sure that they will be well received.
Okay.
Sorry, Chairman, I think I'll have to come back just a quick second, if I may, just to say that nobody's going to disagree that we want to see developments in Castle Square to see it greener. I appreciate what you're doing within the Wine Street area as well, and I think I contributed to both those discussions in the PDC meetings. Having said that, the other thing that I have asked should be considered, but I'm not sure whether it is totally practical in that sense, and there will be a cost associated. But if you're going to look at Wine Street and the Castle Square, in terms of pedestrian movement, if we could find some ways of separating pedestrian movement from traffic, either by an underpass, which is not particularly popular, I understand, or footbridge over, then that might be a sensible way forward. And then everything connected through Princess Way up into Kingsway is all pedestrianised and separated from traffic. It's just something for you to consider if it can be built in at any point in time.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, Chris Orley.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. It's very heartening to hear Councillor Robert Francis Davis saying about people looking back with rose-tinted glasses. It's very ironic that they rose-tinted. Can I say that I think any development in what used to be Castle Gardens is welcomed. When it, as he is right, when it was actually developed, it was very well received right throughout the city, not just the city, but nationally as being a celebration space, which it was and it still is. And I do think it was a good idea. As you say, time moves on, people want different things, and let's look forward to what the plans that are coming forward.
Okay, thanks for that. Wendy.
Yeah, just a comment on the Lindra. Is there a budget for all the works that apparently now need to be carried out? I'm just surprised that there seems to be quite a lot of necessary work to be completed, given the millions that have already been spent on this site.
This is a joint venture with the Welsh Government. So there are budgets in place to deal with the Lindra, which are ring-fenced to the joint venture. So yes, there are budgets in place.
Can we know how much they are, or there is?
Again, I'd have to come back with the detail of that to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Lydia got a hand up. Is it you forgot to take it down, or do you want to say something?
I go over the one stop the paper then. Yeah. You get the paper.
We see. Right, he's left it down. Right. Okay. Right. Are there any other questions on that? To move on, we got the Welsh Government external funding overview going on for the next few pages. I can see the Palace Theatre actually there, a Town Centre Loan Fund. Any questions on these? No. Right, Harvard, sorry, the external funding tower, Riverside Car, Harvard Copper Works. Nothing there. Okay. Swansea Market, right. Transportation and schemes. I think Mike White, do you wanted to say something on this?
Yes, thank you, Chair. 2 points really. Seeing the successful amount of funds that we've had for cycle tracks in Swansea, could I ask on paragraph 3 under South Wales Metro Programme, can I ask, is it our intentions to extend the cycle bayways projects from the promenade, hopefully to link into the Harvard Copper Works and up to link in with cycle route 43 Swansea Lower Valley? Any intentions for that? And secondly, in regards to the issue of the business case, are we pushing forward with the under the metro scheme to perhaps have the introduction of the opening of Lando Halt, which would be very advantageous side of Swansea, stopping there to obviously accommodate football fans to Liberty Stadium, people to visit the more of a retail park, and now obviously with the impending Penderyn Distillery at Copperworks. What are our intentions for that?
Yeah.
I know the leader, or perhaps Robert Francis, answer that, please.
Well, the leader has been leading on this metro system, and we're working very closely with Councillor Mark Thomas, and not myself. As regards cycle paths, which again comes under Councillor Mark Thomas, we have been exceptionally successful in bidding for money for cycle paths. In fact, I think out of all the grants available last year in Wales, Swansea received over 50% of them. So our officers were at applying for these grants, and I know that we have more miles of cycle paths in the Swansea area than any other city in Wales. And that's what I was told some years ago by Sustrans. And when you look at the cycle paths right away along the front, up through Clyne, following the old railway up to the railway inn, huge amount of cycle paths, which is great because people who choose Swansea as a destination for holidays, 40% of them come for either walking or cycling as well. There is a cycle path alongside the River Tower going north, and I'm sure as we develop the West Bank all the way up, there will be, I'm sure, more cycle paths going in and linking up the valley on the river corridor.
Okay.
As regards the halt, the railway halt, I think it's probably premature to say that at the moment, but the metro system is still being worked up, that the leader is working on. It's always been our ambition to have a stop at Landor there to service the Liberty Stadium, and should we get back into the Premier Division, I'm sure it would be much welcome.
When we
and as we second in the league at the moment, let's hope it continues that way. We get back sooner rather than later. And I know that's one thing that I and Councillor Holly and Councillor Peter Black would all be in agreement.
Totally in agreement with. Totally in agreement.
Right.
So it's not answering all your questions, Councillor White, but it is the honest answers I can give you at the moment.
Okay, thanks for that. Chris, do you want to respond?
Yeah, no, just two questions really. One is about the Welsh European Funding Office. I see that we've had a couple of indications of funding and approvals for what we've done with their money. I wonder if there's any strategic allotment fund. And the other one is the Fabian Way Innovation Corridor negotiations with the Valuation Office with the land negotiations. And I'm wondering how far that has got with the Welsh Government support, because the Baldwin Bridge support that we did have about 10 years ago was so divisory that the people that came down from the Welsh Government that virtually threw them out when they said they were going to spend 1 million or 1.5 million on that bridge, when everybody knew it needed something like 15-20 million pound, and the land acquisition which is currently going on. So I was wondering if we could have if I could have some update on that and about the strategic fund.
I can, in terms of the land negotiations, that's been dealt with by corporate property. So you would need to get one of my colleagues, Jeff Bacon, to come in to comment on that one. And I have no knowledge on the other fund, I'm afraid.
Okay, no, thank you.
Wendy?
Yes, just coming back to the active travel programme, and I fully accept that there are some excellent cycle routes in Swansea, but equally, I'm a little concerned that we are putting in cycle routes where perhaps the demand isn't that significant. So I'm just wondering, is there any kind of research carried out into the use of cycle paths? I think that would be interesting because, you know, I'm looking at some of the costs here. And for example, the cycle path, and I'm assuming we're just talking about Males Road, that's all that's mentioned, is going to cost £805,000. It seems to me an enormous cost for, well, how many people are going to use it. This is really what I think perhaps we ought to have a better idea on.
Okay, on that one, I think I don't want to duck the question, but it is something for Stuart Davis, head of highways, to respond to that one. So can I suggest that you or the chair sort of contact Stuart on that basis?
Yeah, I'm happy, you know, I'm happy with that, but I do think it is something that we need to have some information on.
And I think you need to ask this and direct it to when you get Councillor Mark Thomas before you. I know we've been very successful in applying for these grants, and they're coming along. I know that under COVID, the increase of cycling along the front, I think, has gone up about 4 or 5 fold along the promenade. That's successful as being. And they tell me the sales of bicycles has never been so high in the country. So whether everybody's using the time to get active and using cycle paths. Speaking for myself, who's waiting to have 2 new knees, you won't catch me on a bicycle.
Can I ask a question with regards to, you know, the last page, Active Travel Programme 2021? You got breakdown of figures. I know Wendy's actually said 805,000 Males Road. Again, just perhaps reading from the paper, I thought we'd had grants of 10.5 million. Those figures don't come anywhere near 10.5 million. So are they correct? And also it actually says Males Road design complete, subject to price confirmation, start scheduled for November. But surely the price should be confirmed. I assume we've actually gone out to tender for these schemes.
Again, apologies, but this is a highways issue which highways colleagues would have to answer.
Right. Okay. Well, I think that's any other questions actually on this part? No. Okay. Well, thanks to we're actually going to move on to the next agenda item now, which is the work plan. I don't know if the leader and Robert Francis Davis and Hugh Mowbray want to leave the meeting now. Quite welcome to stay.
No, I will leave. I got a lot of meetings, but I'd just like to thank you for inviting us along. And as you can see, the program in Swansea has never been such a big program, and are probably leading Wales at the moment. But I'd like to put my congratulations on to the leader for his vision in pushing things forward all the time. He works tirelessly, and I know he was working till 8 o'clock last night, and then at 4:20 this morning he was emailing me right the way through until 6:30. The sad thing was I was emailing him back, but I've never known a leader with such drive and ambition. So I leave you with that, and thank you very, very much for inviting me here. Thank you.
Okay, yes, and thank you for coming, and the officers as well. I think as a parting comment, I think we all actually want Swansea to succeed, and I hope everybody welcomes Scrutiny for actually scrutinising what's actually going on.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, so, Chair. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 8 now, which is the work plan, which has got to be agreed by everybody. Okay. You can see some of the breakdown. Moving on to, we did discuss this in the pre-meeting. We've got Claire James, Economic Development Manager, and Victoria Thompson, Auxiliary Funding Programme Officer, commercial opportunities in rural areas. I can't put this on the screen, but at the end of the report, we've actually got some suggestions from the work planning conference, one of which was a follow-up impact of Brexit on rural development programme. So I think we can actually put that recommendation from the work planning conference into that commercial opportunity areas update. Of course, I'll ask Emily to speak to Claire and Victoria regarding that topic. We'd also invited somebody from Swansea University to give their views on or proposals on inward investment from Swansea. And as somebody actually said to me, I can't remember who it was in the pre-meeting, we've got Trinity St David's, University in Swansea as well, and I think it might be a joint presentation. Then we got the budget meeting actually on the February 2021. And we'd actually invite in Russell Greenslade. Russell is the heads up bid in Swansea, so I think it'd be useful really for his viewpoint on how the businesses are coping and any future plans and so on. Then on the 2nd of March 2021, on top of the dashboard report, we've actually invited Stuart Beebe, Group Operation Director of ATG, and I think he's accepted actually coming, so that's going to be hopefully an interesting meeting. And the last one we've actually got here now is the 11th of May. Again, the city centre travel plan, which I think is hopefully they'll have finished it or practically finished it by then. I think that's going to be an extremely interesting topic. So really, I think I need everybody's approval with regards to the work plan. Anybody against it?
No.
Can I just raise one thing?
Yeah.
Obviously, the foreshore sites, and I think are worth looking at. I don't know. I would have thought this committee is the best one to look at them.
Okay.
Again.
Pardon?
Well, we looked at them. You say not again, but we looked at them.
No, sorry, Will. I just lost my connection. I was saying not again to that. I beg your pardon.
Okay, apologies. So we have looked at them. We had some vague answers and what they were going to advertise. They've done a consultation and nothing's been revisited since, to my knowledge. And obviously, Langland being one of the sites which is imminent to be advertised. And it'd just be interesting to know what are the plans for the other sites that they consulted on. So I do think they're quite key sites when it comes to the our strategy with tourism and
in Swansea, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's no way we can incorporate all of these suggestions, but I agree with regard to the foreshore and so on, and perhaps actually looking at the list here, meeting that jumps out to me is the draft budget proposals in relation to development and regen, and the presentation by Russell Greenslade for bid. So if we can perhaps incorporate some sort of presentation in that meeting, that's in February. Okay, everybody agree?
Chairman,
that makes sense.
Can I suggest that the foreshore development one and what Will is saying is that the Langland development is very imminent, that we may want to if we could bring it forward to the commercial opportunities in rural areas and the Swansea University, because I think because of the importance of what our foreshore is, it might be worth doing it prior to doing it the budget meeting, because then we'll have an idea of what the discussions are taking place before we have the budget. So, and I think it's very, very important that we actually do bring it forward to put around that 12th of January date.
Thank you, Chris. One other point I'd just like to make on that. Apparently, the skate park that's proposed for the Llwyndera or Bryn Mill, that's going to cabinet in December, I believe. So, you know, it is imminent, these things, so they do need to be looked at.
Yeah, the problem is we haven't got a meeting unless we have set up a special meeting. Actually, I'm not quite sure with regards to the resource in scrutiny. And I think, yes, perhaps we'll speak to.
No, I think, Chair, I think you can actually do it under the commercial opportunities, because that's what is. Yeah, that's what we're doing in Langland is a commercial opportunity. So I think we need to understand what that is likely to be.
Right. Okay. Right. We'll aim for the 12th of January then. If Emily can actually speak to, I'm not sure if Claire James and so on will actually cover that area, but if we can identify somebody to do some sort of presentation and discussion on that topic for the 12th of January. Okay?
Yes, certainly. We'll look into that for you.
Chair, are we going to special meeting with regards to the contract that we're supposedly going to see?
Yeah, thank you, Sue, for reminding me. Yes, with regards to I know we've been asking for many months really for sight of the contract between ATG and the local authority. They did initially, I think, in the meeting, yes, but they've refused ever since then. We've now actually had the agreement from Martin Nichols. I'm not quite sure what sort of terms we'll actually look at it under, whether it will be redacted or not and so on. But as I said in the pre-meeting, you know, the proposal is that we have a special meeting for that. There's no way we can incorporate that into the meetings we've actually got here. And hopefully we can get that arranged. As I said, we're waiting for some sort of date reply from Martin Nichols and Tracy Meredith. And hopefully we can get that set up in the next few weeks. Okay, so we'll have a special meeting.
Yeah.
Right, that's it. Okay.
Chair? So I didn't indicate, and Mike has as well.
Sorry, Peter. Yeah, I was looking at
Mike is before
me. Mike is first. Yes. Mike.
Yeah. Well, from Chris's point about the rural funding programme, definitely support what he's saying about the issue with Langland. Seeing as we got people from the university is going to be there as well, because seeing as they would probably use the cycle track facilities and things all the way down to the Mupples, and that might be that would be the best opportunity.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Well, I think that's what we've agreed anyway. The 12th of January. It's going to be a long meeting, shall I say? You know, but so we've got 4 items really actually in there. We're going to have to really curtail the dashboard report somewhat. Okay, we'll go for the 12th of January then and put that in there. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If I can be helpful.
Yes.
And if Will wants to call in the report to Cabinet to the Scrutiny Programme Committee, then we can most probably deal with it before the Cabinet meeting. Right. Okay, that's an even better idea actually. But Will would need to formally call that in by emailing Bridge or myself or both preferably, so we can arrange to have that done. Right. There we are. Will, are you happy with that?
Thank you, Peter. Spot the freshman here. Thank you.
There we are. Okay. Yes, it would have been a pretty congested meeting on the 12th, really, if we'd put it in there and so on. So, okay, thanks for that, Peter. So we'll write to Peter and Bridge, really, with regards to that. Okay. Right. Okay, if we can bring the meeting to a close then. It is 2 hours, so thanks for attending.
Thank you, Chair.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So long.
Bye.